Adaptations in the Wide World of Frogs, Lesson 11. Learning targets. Read these along with me. I can revise my porpoise tale to correctly use comparative and superlative adjectives and to include words and phrases to make it more precise and interesting. I can read my porpoise tale aloud, accurately, and with expression. And while we're going through this lesson, I want you to think, what is a resolution? What are temporal words and phrases? And why do we need temporal words in a narrative? Parts of speech. How words are grouped, often according to their function. So let's look at the part of speech noun. What is a noun? It's a word that names a person, place, thing, or idea. And my class gave these examples: school, chair, frog, boy, girl. Pronoun. A word used to replace a noun. He, her, I. Because that replaces it. So he could be the boy. Her could be the girl. He could be Tom. Her could be Sally. Verb. A word that describes an action or state of being. So it's something you can do. So if you're unsure, think, can I do that? So can I walk? Yes, so that's a verb. Run, jump, sing. Those are all things that I can do. An action. Adjective. A word that describes a noun or pronoun. Purple, big, fuzzy. Those are all things that we can use to describe things. Adverb. A word that describes a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. Loudly, softly. Now, not all adverbs end in ly, but usually if you see a word ending in ly, that's a big hint that it could be an adverb. And then here are just some examples that we had prepared for you. So you can just take a look if you want more examples of nouns, pronouns, verbs, adjectives, or adverbs. Comparative. What word do you see inside of comparative? Right, we see compare. What does it mean to compare? Yeah, to look at two or more items and see what is the same about them. When you compare things, what are you doing? What do you think a comparative adjective might be? Okay, think about that. So comparative and superlative adjectives. Look at visual 1 right here. How could we compare these two frogs using the word big? Well, this frog we could say is big, and the second frog is bigger. Now visual 2, let's look at the spottiness. This first frog is spotty, but the second frog is spottier. Now 3, let's look at the size of the frogs. Big, bigger, biggest. And 4, if we're doing the spotty, this is not spotty, spottier, spottiest. All right, so if you want to look at page 37 in your EL workbook, the white and purple one, you see this comparative and superlative adjective and adverbs worksheet. So we're just going to talk about what the comparative adjective and superlative adjective would be for some of these words. So wide, the comparative adjective would be wider. What would the superlative adjective be? Right, widest. How about the comparative adjective for spotty? What would that be? Right, spottier. What's the superlative adjective? The spottiest. Go ahead and finish the rest under that column. Now let's move down and look at the adverbs. Slowly. What would the comparative adjective be? More slowly, and the superlative would be most slowly. Fast, the comparative adjective would be faster, and the superlative would be fastest. Now I want you to notice in slowly we used the words more and most before, but in fast we didn't. And that's because if we look at the word slowly, slowly ends in an ly, but fast does not. So think about applying that when you're looking at quietly and lately. Don't forget to write down what you noticed. This worksheet should be submitted to Seesaw once you're finished. All right, so think back to our class narrative. Each class has a different narrative. So in class, we wanted to think about words that we can revise in our writing to make it more precise and interesting. So think about your class narrative. Was there any more words that you could add to make it more interesting? And can you add or incorporate any comparative or superlative words? All right, so you are to go and read your Pourquoi tale with a partner. And so you can do that with a grown-up, or you can do that with even your pet at home if you want, but they won't have one to do back with you, or older brother or sister. And and think, are there any words that you can make that can make your work more precise and interesting? And think about what fluent readers do. They read smoothly. They correct themselves when they make mistakes. They read at an appropriate volume for everyone to hear. So we're not reading too quietly, and we're not shouting either. Read at an appropriate pace for everyone to understand the words you're saying. Pause at commas and fully stop at periods. Read questions like questions and exclamations with excitement. We change their voice and volume depending on meaning. We change the tone to match the message. Sad, serious, funny, joyful, surprised. We read dialogue between quotation marks with expression to convey meaning. And we change your facial and body language to convey meaning. Okay, so now we're going to look at our self-assessment fluency checklist. And we're going to think about how we're doing right now and how we can improve. So you can find this on pages 38 and 39. So after you've read your Pourquoi tale to a partner, I want you to grade yourself on how you're doing. So, for example, I can read all or almost all the words correctly. If you think you can do that, you can give yourself a 4. If you read most of them correctly, give yourself a 3. If you read some, but you still need quite a bit of help too, and if you need a lot of help, then you give yourself a 1. I can correct myself and reread when what I read was wrong or didn't make sense. Go ahead and give yourself a score, 4 through 1. I can read my text at a speed that is appropriate for the piece. If you're doing that all the time, 4. Most of the time, 3. Some of the time, 2. 1, not really. I can read smoothly without many breaks. Go ahead and give yourself a score. And I can read groups of related words and phrases together. Where do you fall? 4, 3, 2, or 1? And you're going to continue reading and marking yourself for items on 39 as well. So 39, I can notice and read punctuation. Example, pauses after a comma and period. Questions sound like questions. Dialogue sounds like someone saying it. Exclamations in an excited voice. I can use appropriate tone to express the author's meaning. I can use facial expressions and body language to match the expression in my voice. I can use the appropriate volume and change volume naturally as if I'm talking to a friend. Again, there's more partner work. And then you're going to look at your fluency checklist and see what you gave yourself and think, how can you improve what you did? And then you're going to finish planning your Pourquoi tale for your assessment that we're going to do in a few days. So if you have not finished your planning on your new why question on pages 35 and 36, make sure that you are getting that done today so that you are ready to go when it is time for your